troubles in the stock market in the American or maybe in the West. The cost was really cheap, and instead of spending a lot of money, they're spending a lot of thinking. So I think we need to understand what is the factors that make one civilization going up while the other civilization going down. We discussed this maybe a long time ago, but I mean, in China they spend little money, but they spend a lot of maybe thinking, or they have people who are motivated, people who they maybe they got support or something. So their system is encouraging people to do more. What they call it, إبداع in Arabic, which is maybe
creativity.
Creativity. So I think that one factor. So if you look at even the Muslim civilization, when the civilization was its high, not the peak, maybe the high or going up, creativity was, you cannot miss it. Wherever you look, you see creativity here and there in medicine, in physics, in math, in everything. So that's, I think, one factor you can see, you cannot miss in rising civilization. While maybe, I don't know, lots of researchers think of America as falling civilization. And maybe that's why they are not as creative as before. You see, China is leading in quantum, leading in AI now after they have this breakthrough in AI, the DeepSeek, and maybe other stuff. So, and I like to quote Jeffrey Sachs. He's one of our great professors that I listen to mostly, maybe a few times a week. He said, how many wars China encountered or participated in? He said for about 40 years, none, zero. So they, instead of doing wars, they are doing maybe economic advancement. That's my introduction, and if anybody wants to add to it before Dr. Suhail, or Dr. Suhail can pick up from here.
Jazakallah khair. I don't know exactly. I heard some of the discussion, but can you please tell me what's the focus is on? We're talking about rise and fall of civilizations.
Yes, I was mentioning the factors that cause some civilization to go up while others going down, or maybe others stay in stagnation, nothing, not going up, just keeping going down, like what's happening in the Muslim civilization. One of the factors may be creativity, others maybe, it can be other factors, and it's like something we need maybe to think about, and maybe pinpoint what's these factors. I think some ideas, like I would say concepts, major ideas, like al-jabr, like when you think you have no choice, or you are forced to do, not forced in that meaning, but if Allah is doing everything, then you are doing nothing, or you don't think of what they call it, cause and effect. So you miss that factor, and then your civilization will be in free fall. I mean, human will have no effect in life. So I think creativity, one factor, maybe other one is the idea of jabr, or determination or something. So that's maybe, I would like to hear other members here, not only myself, before maybe Dr. Suhail, add your analysis. Otherwise, I think, is that clear to me and to you, brother?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big field. I mean, unfortunately, we're not into it, which is called the rise and fall. Yani, rise and fall of nations. There are so many books and theses and programs that are focusing on this. Um, since the very famous book of John Kennedy or Michael Kennedy, the rise and fall of the great powers or something.
Yes,
And
yes, I
then
have
the
that
very,
book.
very recent book is Why Nations Fail. It's also, people are reading it and studying it everywhere. What makes a nation fail? And we don't do all of that because we think we know it, and we think that things can work by coincidence, things can work by wishful thinking. Allah will make it work for us. We have so many ideas that very corrupt. They have to be completely uprooted and replaced by different ideas. Um, and that brings us to two things. Brings us to accepting the fact that the amount of damage that happened to the Muslim mind over more than 12 centuries of dictatorship and dynasty rule, it's huge. It's a huge, I mean, people's understanding of Islam was twisted completely, and Islam was reduced to a couple of things to do and a couple of things to avoid. People understanding of life and the world was messed up. We are the only ones who believe that things can work just like that, even though Quran is telling us to discover those rules, and that's what Muslims did when they understood Islam properly, at least some individuals. Um, and so many wrong ideas, religious, cultural, uh, you name it. So many wrong ideas are deeply seated in the minds of Muslims, and um, nothing short of a revolution, nothing short of an intellectual revolutions by which people will rediscover their religion, the lost religion, the Islam, the inspiring, empowering Islam that was lost long time ago. And then they reshape their mind or rewire their minds. This kind of thinking is not going to get us anywhere. And they say that you cannot solve the problems with the same mindset that has created it. And that's absolutely true. You cannot solve the problems with the mindsets that have created it. And we have another golden rule, it's an Islamic rule, that Allah will not change the conditions of people until they change themselves. We kept trying time and again to change the conditions, but without us changing it. And we are yet to realize that's not going to happen. It did not happen before, and it's not going to happen in the future. You do whatever you want. You go do da'wah, bring people to the mosque, nothing is going to change. Go and change regime, nothing is going to change because the people are the same people. They are thinking the same way. They have their understanding of Islam is the same way. Their behavior and manner and character is the same. And therefore, the results, conditions will be the same. If people want to fool themselves, that's up to them. But this is the sad reality that we have to accept. And then we have an example for that. So we don't have to reinvent. I mean, there is a solid example. As I mentioned this last Jumu'ah, I said that Muslims and Europe inherited the same situation. With one difference, that situation that Muslims inherited was much better. We inherited the dynasty rule. They had monarchy, even worse, much worse. We inherited the Salafi understanding of Islam. They had the Catholic Church suppressing thinking and suppressing creativity and etc. It's the same. It's the Christian version of Salafism. It's the same, which is that you cannot think. You have to rely on the priest. Our people told us you cannot think and you should not think. You need to rely on the Salaf. It didn't. I mean, no significant difference. but the difference was in the way they dealt with it. Now, we still believe that that history was great. We still believe that understanding of religion that we inherited is good, maybe needs some polishing, but that's not how Europe dealt with it. They realized that no, first of all, there was an intellectual revolution, lots of new ideas, social contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the idea of separation of powers by Montesquieu, the Reformation, the Renaissance, books here and there, minds start to be liberated. Minds start to be liberated, and people got out of the shackles of the monarchy, the shackles of the church, and the shackles of the what's called the system of iqta in English. What is that people who owns so much land and owns the people on it? What they call that? Forgot. System. I will remember it. The system that was before capitalism. Feudalism or something like this, which is that when people, the landowners who owns huge lands and owns the people who are working on it, that was the system. And Europe demolished that system completely, replaced monarchy with democracy, replaced that feudalism, whatever system, with capitalism, replaced the church that is dominating people and preventing them from thinking and etc. with a new version or more free understanding of religion. And you can see it nowadays. You can see that Protestant countries are doing much better than Catholic. I mean, in all the world, in all parts of the world, the Protestant countries are doing better than the Catholic countries in South Europe, etc. So bottom line is, I'm not saying we need to copy anything, no, but I'm saying that without similar revolutions in the ideas, without fresh understanding of Islam, without Muslims start to think freely, independently, critically, objectively, forget about this bias, forget about wishful thinking, forget about classifying people with us or against us, forget about someone speaking, appoint themselves spokesperson of religion, so that if you disagree with them, you become kafir. Someone is spokesperson of revolutions. You disagree with them, you are with the old regime. Someone appoints themselves spokesperson of Palestine and resistance. You disagree with them, you are Zionist and you are pro-Zionist, against Muqawma, against etc. With this kind of thinking, we're staying for quite some time in the same position, if we're not going to go deeper yet. With wishful thinking, there are people who are, there is a brother who summarized all. He told me something very recently, I mean, just last day or two. Told me, you know what you're saying is true, but it's not comfortable. It's not comforting. So كلامك صحيح بس مش مريح. احنا عايزين, we want to be entertained in politics. Now we want to be entertained in politics. So we're looking for entertainers. We're looking for someone who tell us that we are on the right track, things are working, future is great. Like, based on what? No need for any basis, no need for any statistics, no need for any analysis, just like that, because that's what we wish. Okay, wish as much as you want, but we can meet after a few years if Allah gives us life, and we're gonna find ourselves in square one. Why? Because we are defying solid rules. Again, Allah will not change the conditions of people until they change themselves. and you cannot solve the problems with the same mindset that have created it. Let's not try this anymore, because never worked, never will. You have seen in several countries, dictatorship is gone. People came back to Islam, but nothing has changed. Why? Because it's same people, same thinking, same behavior, same everything. Same understanding of Islam, etc. Same corrupt ideas that we inherited, like Brother Muhammad was mentioning, whether it is Jabri, whether it is believing that Allah will do things for us, even though it did not happen with the prophetic community. The prophetic community were defeated in a battle, and Quran told them, it's the work of your own hands. Don't blame anybody. Don't remain in state of denial. There are rules that govern this world. You violated them, you paid cash. You paid. And that's what's going to happen to everybody. Allah will help you, yes, but when? When you meet the requirements. When you have that pure intention and you exhaust all the means and you fall short, Allah will take care of the rest, but not before that. And you still have life, and sometimes I don't want to mention examples because some people, they become offended, but we reach a point where we go to sleep with an idea about a person or about a party or about a group or jama'ah. We wake up in the morning and the media tells us something exactly opposite, and we're supposed to believe it, and there are a lot of people they do. And we reach a point where people are ready to doubt themselves, doubt the facts, doubt what they see, just to accept what they hear simply because they like it. Yeah, I mean, the US or the Israelis want us to see this individual or this group or this jama'ah in a different light. We say, I mean, okay. Based on what? No, based because that's what we want. Used to be an enemy, or we claimed an enemy, now is our person, our man. So you need to like him. Okay, we like him. So that's what it is. And things will work out. Yes, things will work out. I don't know. I don't know. We go back to the insanity. Definition of the insanity is to do the same thing, expect different results. Einstein was asked, with all your brilliant mind, is there anything in this universe that you could not understand? He said, that's the only thing. I don't understand how can a person does the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's the only thing that I just could not figure out. So we need to study, as Brother Muhammad mentioned, we need to study that, and we need to start getting rid of those ideas that we inherited. Come up with a different and more accurate narration of history. History was not rosy, was not great, all of it. There were some bright pages in it. There were some achievements, yes, but there are a lot of brutalities, a lot of dictatorship, a lot. We reached, there was a, and this is very common, by the way, it did not happen only by chance. When Khalifa dies and there is someone who is going to inherit, they kill their brothers. Why? So that there will be no power struggle, so that the Khilafah will be stable. And did not happen once, did not happen twice, several times, repeatedly. And then this idea of cutting heads and bringing them in a tray to the Khalifa, etc., happened several times, repeated. No, we don't want to see that. We want to see that we were great and things, everything was fine, and we have that Khilafah. That's why you have groups of Muslims, they want to bring that system back, because they were told it was great. And they want to promote that version of Islam that we inherited. Why? Because they told them it was the right one. The Salafi, that's what the Salaf Salih did, And that's what we need to stick to. And you should not think, freeze your mind, freeze ijtihad, and then just count on things to happen by themselves through daydreaming and wishful thinking. Sometimes when I teach electricity and a TA comes to me and says that there is a group of students who could not fix the circuit because it's so complicated, so many wires, and they tried to trace to find out where they made a mistake. Say, you know what? They'd better off just disconnect everything and then rebuild it because there is no point. So many wires and there are. The Muslim mind needs something like that. They need to be إفراغ. One of the companions said, كان الرسول يفرغنا ثم يملأنا. The Prophet used to empty us and fill us. Empty us from the wrong ideas. The ideas that we had, the wrong ideas, and then fill them with the correct ones. That's why he changed so many definitions in their mind. Man al-Muflis, who is the bankrupt? And they answer and then tell them, no, that's not. This is the bankrupt. And who is the strongest amongst you? They say the one who can beat others. And no, strongest is the one who controls their anger, etc. He kept changing it. So I think Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, كان الرسول يفرغنا ثم يملأنا. I think a process like that is badly needed nowadays, that for Muslims to start getting rid of the superficial diagnosis that of reality, the totally flawed and wrong reading of history, the mutilated understanding of Islam, and then build something on top of that. And you can tell people they find it difficult because, oh, brother, after all these centuries and decades, we're going to do that. Yes. And you'd better do it now because tomorrow is going to be more difficult. And the things are not heading our way. And everything that you don't do it today, tomorrow, if you have to do something, delaying it will make it only difficult and will reduce your chance of success. And as I mentioned one time recently, um, if we see the history uh, being twisted now in front of our eyes, facts are being twisted. We have all the right to question what we inherited. Because nowadays we can see facts being twisted in front of our eyes. And therefore we have all the rights and the reasons to question everything that we have inherited. Because you can see it. People want to convince you that Gaza was a victory and everything that was done was correct. It should have been done the same way at the same time. No reassessment, no reevaluation, nothing. Because we never make mistakes. And if you dare to say maybe you are against Muqawmat, against resistance, and against Palestine, and against same thing. The narration that is being promoted now about Syria, you have to accept it. There is you have no right to question it. It was Tahrir and Nasr, ومن يحرر يقرر, and no, nobody interfered. We just defeated the army, and we have Malahim, great battles, even though they did not happen, but you just have to accept it. And of course, when you accept that and you try to build on it, you find yourself in the wrong direction because you are building on a shaky foundation, or you are coming up with a treatment based on the wrong diagnosis. Then you have to bear the consequences.
mean, if you look at Europe history and how Renaissance happened, from what you described and from, of course, the history, we can tell there is a major switch happened in the mindset. Like looking at science. At one time, science were forbidden, and nobody agreed to science. And we have a lot of examples where like Galileo or Copernicus or somebody come with a different idea, and they say, no, this is different. This is negate what we believe in, or something, or negate our history or a tradition or something. So looking or the viewpoint or how we look at science is a major thing. Another thing, how we look at human, how we look at values, how we look at other people. I mean, are we willing to live or deal with other people as equal human being or not? Are we better than others? Or things will be better because we are Muslims or we are something? So there is, I mean, the change is not going to happen. I mean, from my understanding, that soon. I agree with you. We need what I call revolution. I mean, in the mind. If we don't have intellectual revolution, and I mean, that's what we need, and it has to be really like it's a blunder going around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, stagnation will stay a long
Yeah.
time.
Everybody is coming, they come close to the Salafi understanding of Islam, and they very reluctantly try to polish something, but they cannot challenge it, because the moment you challenge, you're kafir. So they cannot challenge anything that is barely finding an item or something to just polish. But every Muslim, until proven otherwise, every Muslim is a Salafi. Salafi in the mindset. So there are two things that are dominating the Muslim world and the Muslim populations and preventing us from going anywhere. The Salafi understanding of Islam, that's hurting us big time in religion, and the ideology, the political Islam groups and the ideology that is hurting us big time in politics. Why? Because they are not capable of leading, they don't follow, and they don't step out of the way. They are there, very much organized, more than anybody else, so nobody can bypass them. At the same time and again, when they're given chance to lead, they cannot lead, because in their mindset is also Salafi conditioned, but they added to this political activism, and even the Salafis now joined because they start to have political parties. So there is hardly any difference now. But with these two things dominating the Muslim mind, now any incident that happened anywhere in the Muslim world, what is the version that is going to be widespread from day one? It's the version that is coming from those groups. And then everybody has to accept it. And anybody who dares to disagree or dissent find themselves under tremendous attack. That's in politics. What is the dominant understanding of Islam? It's a Salafi. Everywhere. Everywhere. It's the one that tells you should not think. There is no ijtihad. The Salaf has done everything for us. We just have to read their books. And even those books, you don't read them. There is the Sheikh is going to read them for you. Because you are not capable. You're not capable of understanding the Quran. You're not capable of understanding Hadith. You're not capable even understanding those books of Salaf. Those books of Salaf, you go and sit down, Sheikh will explain them to you. So they will open Ibn Kathir or Ibn Taymiyyah, and then they will read and explain those books for you. With this approach, where are you going to go?
That description.
No, I was going to ask, so, just want to differentiate between Muslims living in America, because here people, especially our kids, in the universities, they are taught about critical thinking and all that. So do you think that Muslims in America do not follow the Salafi mode like you were mentioning? I don't know what exactly classical Salafi is besides not using your own brain or akhal rather, just using the nakhal, right? So,
Yeah.
so my question is, do you think American Muslims are much using the critical thinking and moving ahead, or?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Whatever I said applies, of course, to American Muslims. And the point that you're making, that's what is causing a lot of tension to second and third generations, because they have two difficult options. If they're going to follow that or apply that critical mind and critical thinking and others, they're going to find themselves in conflict with the community and the parents. Or they have to forget about that, what they learned in school, and go with the flow. These are the only two options. Of course, there is the third option recently, which is to join those terrorist groups, unfortunately, who are doing very aggressive media campaign and recruitment, etc. So these young people are so lost. There is something that I learned about this world that tells me to think freely, to express my opinion, it's okay to be different, it's okay to disagree, etc. And then there is home and the community who tells me, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't use your mind, and you should be limit, go and memorize things and etc. So we put them in a very difficult spot. And if each one of them, the poor people, young people, are trying to reconcile these contradictory forces that are really tearing them apart, and everybody is coming up with a formula. There are people who said, okay, I don't need this religion altogether. I'm just going to live. This religion is confusing. There is a lot of contradiction, a lot of things that do not make sense, etc. I don't want it. And there are people who conform. They forget about anything they learned in American schools, etc. And you talk to the child, you think that they never left Saudi Arabia or Pakistan, etc. They're not here. Why? Because they decided to go with the flow. And there are people who do some patchwork here and there and come up with something that is not coherent at all. Why? We are creating a problem. This religion is very compatible with science. It's very compatible. It encourages people to think. It gives Allah gave people the choice not to believe in Him. So to that extent, I mean, let people think, let people express their opinion. But if someone grows in a family and a community where disagreement is not allowed, where disagreement can lead you to become called kafir or labeled, I told you, in the Muslim world nowadays, when there is a prevalent narration or framing of an issue, anybody who dare to dissent find themselves immediately under tremendous attack and labeling. If you don't say that the new leader of Syria is a great person and is going to do great things for Syria, and he is the Mahdi Muntazar, you are with Bashar. That's it. You don't have another choice. You are Fulul. You belong to the old, you like the old regime, you are against Torah. I mean, where are we going with this? If you dare to say that the Hadith, Bukhari did great job, but not 100%, because it's a human effort. And he focused on the sanad, the chain of narration. We need to do some work on the matan and see what is consistent with the Quran, what is not, with the fundamental principle of Islam, what is contextual, you will find yourself kafir right away. هتناقش البخاري. So I really feel so much pain about an ummah that has great religion, that produced great success stories in a very unfavorable conditions. And nowadays we are in a much better position to do that. We just don't want to do. We want it to happen, but we don't want to take to pay the price or take the route that will lead us there. We think that we can take any direction and we can reach our destination. And you know what? Ironically, every time we think that we found a shortcut, we end up paying a heavier price and not getting there. You can see in different countries, so heavy price because we thought at certain point in time that there is a shortcut and this is cheaper. And then we found ourselves lost and after paying a very heavy price. People don't want to read statistics. There are some statistics that makes you really shocking statistics. Comparing what small countries in Europe or Israel or whatever is doing, and they compare them with all the Arab world or all the Muslim world together. So you're comparing small country in science and whatever technology, and research, and then next to it they put all the Arab countries or all the Muslim countries together. And no, we don't want to see that. We just want, like as I said, we want entertainer. We want people who tell us that everything is great and is going to become greater, and that's it. And most recently, wallahi, statistics was really alarming. I heard it like last couple days. In Pakistan, 26 million child, they don't go to school. 26 million child don't go to school. And we're happy that it's a nuclear country. 26 million. What kind of future is going to await this? I mean, and poverty and different reasons, etc. But that's the number was for me. I had to hear it a few times to believe it.
The other problem in Pakistan, Dr. Ghannouchi, is those madrasas. They are they just teach Quran and the sciences of Quran, and there is no teaching about science. While the Quran promotes, if you see every page, there is natural science. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses these ayats and to look into this and look. And so they are just focused on one aspect of life and not science. And I think every Muslim is a born scientist and they should invest in that. So the madrasas are only one-sided, only one mind. They promote just focusing on the Quran and everything, and not about the environment and about the world that we live in, which Quran wants us to probe into.
Yeah.
Problem.
And by the way, this memorizing Quran, with all my due respect, that's not what we're missing. I mean, it's a great, but having so many schools, they just make children memorize Quran. I mean, what's the point? Quran memorization is great, but there is something greater has to be done first, is understanding Quran and applying it. That's what we don't, even the companions, not many of them were hafiz. But whenever few verses are revealed, they sit down and study it. That's the more important part. And then we left, like we did with religion, we left the essence of religion and we busied ourselves with other stuff. With the Quran, it's the same thing. We left the essential task, which is understanding the Quran, and then we focusing on reading. People will tell you, I finish Quran every, I don't know, a few days or etc. Reading, memorizing, tajweed, schools teaching tajweed. There's nothing wrong with this. All of this is great. I mean, but what's the point if you teach someone Quran and make them memorize and recite it with tajweed, but they don't know what they're reading? What's the point, yani?
Basically, they've lost the spirit of Islam. I mean,
that's all. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say that the true Islam was lost, and we inherited a version that is very, very much reduced, very superficial, very rigid, has nothing to do with the original Islam. They look the same on the surface, yes, and they use that metaphor of real jewelry and fake jewelry. You see them next to each other, they look exactly the same. But in terms, if you scratch the surface, you'll find this is real silver or real gold or diamond, and this one was plated. It was like copper or iron, and it was plated, just the surface. So we prayed the same way like the Sahaba. We fast the same way. Aqidah did not change, but when you see the product, when you see the individuals and the societies, there is no comparison. You can't convince me that this is same thing. You can't convince me that the Islam that produced Umar al-Khattab and others is the same Islam that we have today. No, it's not. And as hard as it is to accept it, but it is understood because that Islam confronted dictatorship, dynasty rule, and they are very incompatible. They can't coexist together. So if you have the true Islam, you can't have a dynasty rule. If you have a dynasty rule, you can't have a true Islam. And because the dynasty rule prevailed, the true Islam had to be twisted in order to be consistent and coexist. Because the true Islam tells you that you are born free, you are born with rights that nobody can touch, that your leader is, you choose your leader, you hold them accountable, they have to be transparent, they have to exercise surah, etc. And then the dynasty rule tell you the ruler has absolute power. You have no right to question anything. And if you disagree, if you oppose them, then you are violating religion, because the religion tells you ta'at wali al-amr, and you are violating that. And then they don't consult. Yes, they give you an order, and because you are not citizen, you are their subject. And you can't. The two cannot coexist together. And because the dynasty rule prevails, the true Islam has to be reduced, twisted, mutilated. You come to a nice piece of art and you mess it up. The essence of religion was thrown away. Minor things were blown out of proportion. Flexible things were made rigid. And we ended up with this version. It's mutilated. There are some essential elements in Islam that were either thrown away or reduced. No sense of mission. No focus on maqasid, the ultimate purposes. No focus on akhlaq, character. That's why people are very religious, but you don't find very high morals in the Muslim world. People are cheating, people take bribery, even though they will not miss any prayer. You will find they have a prayer rug in the office, but they have a drawer for bribery. And the no work ethics, no problem. Spousal relationship, abuse. And at the same time, the appearances are very good. Appearances, religious, mosque, everything. Why? Very superficial. They were told that's the Islam. Islam is the rituals and appearances. Even akhlaq, that the Prophet said he was sent just to perfect them, we are not, our ranking in the world is not high. That's akhlaq, muamala, interaction, how people deal with each other, honesty, work ethics, etc., mutual respect. Total failure. This deen that encourage free thinking and critical thinking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have to explain to us why this is halal and what this haram, and yet he did it. Allah gave people the choice not to believe in Him. And there are people nowadays, they don't give you the right to disagree with them. And then they tell you something and you have to accept it without any justification because they said so, without any explanation. So has nothing to do. And we went almost exactly opposite to the teaching of our Islam. Our deen teaches us something and we're doing almost exactly the opposite of it. So that's why I say it's beyond repair. It's not something that you can patch it. You just go and rediscover, accept this reality and go and rediscover the true stuff that was lost.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I do agree that whatever we have is superficial and we just touch in like some of the ideas of it. And it's really interesting. I was reading just some kind of explanation. Somebody says, oh, I just understood Surah Quraysh and the 4 ayahs of Surah Quraysh. And I can't agree with him. Like when they teach us, when I first read it, it was more like about like, oh, Quraysh or people of Mecca used to travel twice a year, one in the summer, one in the winter time. And that was the end of the story. Another time I read it, it was about like, all right, when they came with their goods from their travel and they sold it, they divided the gains from that sales between the people who lived in Mecca, just so everybody survived. And today I learned something new, that people used to kill, or when somebody couldn't feed his family, they used to isolate themselves until they died from hunger, until they got like I think it relates to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's grandfather, that he resolved the issue and divided the tribes into smaller families, and they told them to divide between each other whatever each one owned, so everybody was equal. So I don't know what's the truth here. It's more like a social system during the time before the Prophet. So it is really interesting. The whole example is like, as a small of a surah it is, it's like there is such a small things that we really don't get to understand and learn it at once. And every time you navigate, you learn something new, you come up, and these are stories. It's not like just the specific wording of God trying to understand. It's just the story, which could have been like at once given to us and it grow on it. So this is part one. And the part two that I kind of like confused about, it's like we started talking about like the rise and failure of the topic Brother Muhammad was talking about. And somehow we got involved into politics and what's happening in the region, and somehow it's like I understand like lessons learned. I understand that we have to evaluate everything we do, and we have to do it like very frequently as we're going. And at the best time is like after we finish a period of time or we accomplish something, we reevaluate and we work with. And this is what actually a lot of projects is moving towards in the last, I would say, 10 years. They develop things and they test them, they see how it works. It's either they thrown away or they rebuild and refix things on them. We are too far from that, and we don't evaluate what we're doing. You're right, but what's the confusion is, it's like when we lack the understanding of the Quran, it's like وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُم مَّا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. What does that mean? And we try to blame a group. Like my understanding, like the situation of Gaza, did they evaluate or they went with a plan and things turned out not to be good enough, and we have a loss, or did they win? Did they gain whatever they wanted and they consider whatever they consider is a win? I really think that they did what they could. But again, if I don't understand like how I can understand like وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُم مَّا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ, if I don't understand that part and how to translate it, I don't know how to evaluate what happens, and maybe there is more into it than وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُم مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ.
Well,
And the same thing in the other areas like Syria. It's like there is some things that obvious, but others are not. It's like what obvious to me, the failure of the regime and kicking the regime out of Syria. We see the Israelis in Damascus. Is this a good thing? No, we don't see the new regime blaming or even talking about like, oh, this is a new type of occupation here. What are we doing? He's not even blaming it. So I can see that too. In the meantime, I can see the Oslo, for example, when it comes to us as Palestinians. I see that the Oslo people say, if you want to fight and stand against what's happening, you need to agree with what Oslo is about. It's like, come on. It's like we've been waiting for you to show us something in the last 30 years. We still have to go back and talk about that. So again, it's like it's very confusing. I know that there is a lot involved into this.
for
but
Gaza, أخي, for Gaza, it's very simple. It's the idea of taboo that we are always victorious and we never make mistake, and you have to accept that. And if you dare to question anything, then we are ready to attack you and label you. So it's unfortunately that's has been the tradition. Regardless of what happened, the victory party is always ready. We are ready to have a victory party, and this just to say. To ask the question that you asked, was it worth it? Was it calculated properly? There was any mistakes, any miscalculation? If you dare to raise the question, not even to have a different assessment, you find yourself in trouble. But I keep saying there was a lot of miscalculations, and I listed a long list of them, miscalculations, and whatever was achieved was not worth it. The price was very heavy. You tell me, wallahi, we revived the Palestinian cause in the world. No, but how about the price? Oh, Algeria, 1 million shaheed, so it's okay. 200,000 in Gaza, 100,000, that's okay. You know, these are lives of people. Shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, yes, I can be with resistance, but I can disagree with some decision or the way it is pursued. That's not in the Muslim mind. These complex or compounded stands because the Muslim mind nowadays understand only with us or against us. You can't be with the resistance and disagree with decision taken by Hamas. You can't. It's not allowed. There is no room for that. You can't be with the Syria revolution from day one and express some concern about where things are heading. You can't. You are with the revolution or against the revolution. You cannot say there is. If I read what you write or what you say, if I don't find what I'm used to, like you are with us, then even if I don't understand you, I say you are against us because you're not saying what we are saying and you're not telling us what we like to hear. And by the way, in Syria, just to close, already بالروح بالدم it came up. So things are happening very fast. Already بنحبك وانت زعيمنا والى الابد وبالروح بالدم already. So كانك يا ابو زيد ما غزيت يعني.
Wallah, but I disagree with you today. They put his picture on the flags. The people and the security forces went to all the stores. They pull all these flags and they say will be fined. Any store will sell product like that. Just
wait, yeah, brother, wait.
Okay.
Wait, don't be fooled by speeches and by these symbolic movement. Wait, the guy is not well established yet. The guy is not very deeply rooted. Just wait.
Okay.
I will send you the speech was given by Ben Ali when he came to power. It was much better than this one. And then we ended up with the dictator. So don't be fooled by أنا خادم وأنا جيت مش حاكم وأنا all of this should not ما عاد يخيل علينا يعني.
Doctor, but last 14 years, the difference between Tunisia and Syria, 14 years, the people, they should know the lessons.
Okay, إن شاء الله يا أبو عبد الله. أنا الأيام بيننا I don't see any sign of Syria heading in a direction different than other countries. I don't see any sign. And now the regional power, of course, Saudi Arabia is not supporting Thawra or democracy. I mean, unless we want to fool ourselves, yani. That trend tells you where things are heading. That this has the stamp, the international stamp. Green light was given to the regional countries to take it in, to accept it, because there is not that the international agenda or the global agenda is being implemented. And he was brought to implement it the same way like Bashar was brought. They came to power in a different way, yes, but they to do the same job.
جزاك الله في خير دكتور
وإياكم
سلمى.
إن شاء الله.
See you next Sunday إن شاء الله.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام.
عليكم السلام، جزاكم الله خير.